doing them.
You know what I started doing with Jason, my old drummer? Once a week, we have a group who gets together at the Cornelia Airport Park, and we do a Murph once a week.
Oh yeah. What is a Murph again?
It's ridiculous.
It's when you eat a whole pizza, a number one from McDonald's,
and then
a Caesar salad.
You throw a Caesar salad away.
Yeah.
And then a milkshake from either Dairy Queen, Baskin Robbins, or
that's it.
Maybe Culver's.
In Murfreesboro. Has to be Murfreesboro.
There's the best Culver's.
Hence MTSU being a bigger school.
Hi, I'm Dave Barnes.
And I'm John McLaughlin.
And welcome to Dadville.
Dadville is a podcast where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of awesome dadding.
It's funny thoughts and deep talks.
So please, enjoy your time here in Dadville and enjoy this episode with
Mike Donehey.
Okay, John, I'm just going to start telling you right now.
Wow.
You didn't ask. Things I love. One, this is not, well, I don't want to say any order. Chocolate milk.
Okay.
2, Disney World. And Disneyland, but Disney World's going to win because I'm from the South.
Okay.
3, roller coasters. 4, Disney World. 5, chocolate milk.
Yeah.
I feel like 6, I love the energy boost. The first thing I get in the morning when I drink my AG1.
I see. You're going in reverse order, so that's number one.
That's number one. That's right.
Well, I agree. That's why we've been drinking AG1 for years, Dave.
I know, John.
You ever take a glass of AG1 to Disney World?
No, it'd be too many things. They
It's
wouldn't
insane,
let me in. They wouldn't
bro.
let me in. They're like, you're
Space
too healthy.
Mountain with AG1?
You're too healthy to be in here. Eat some donuts and come back, you weirdo. You know what I know, John?
Tell me.
I know with AG1, I'm giving my body the nutrient support it needs to power through the day.
You know, Dave,
even at Disney World.
In a research study, 97...
Wait, did you do this?
Well, it was something that I was kind of like supportive of. I wasn't directly involved, but 97% of participants felt digestion improved after 90 days of drinking AG1.
You know, John.
And they weren't all at Disney World, but I have to imagine some of them were.
Well, some of them were emotionally. You know, John, and AG1 was shown to have doubled the amount of healthy bacteria in the gut.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So, listeners, start with AG1 and notice the difference for yourself. You don't have to take our word for it, especially Dave's.
Wait, what?
What? It's a great first step to investing in your health, and that's why they've been a proud partner of ours for so long.
Try AG1 and get a free bottle. They were going to charge you, and me and John said, just give it to them for free. And they said, okay. It's a free bottle of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free. They were doing 4. 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/dadville.
Guys, that's a $48 value for free if you go to drinkag1.com/dadville. Now check it out.
And that feels good. Mike, how you feeling?
Are we doing this to a
clip?
To a metric?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Are you having a good day so far? We're glad to have you.
Donna, he is back.
It's pretty good. It's
I'll
pretty
try
good.
to stay
It's
away
pretty,
from the
it's pretty good.
triplets.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
The triplets.
But it's Donna, he.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No one has any clue what we're talking about.
No,
5, 1,
but
2,
they
3,
will
4,
because
5.
everybody, guess what?
Guess
what? What, everybody?
You hear it. You hear it. You've been wanting it. Man, they've been wanting it for how long? 2 years?
No, 3.
3 years?
3 years.
Was it 3
August
years
of
ago?
21.
No, it wasn't.
I don't believe that.
It was.
Man,
that's a lie.
You look so much older than that.
Yeah, he's looking at John, everybody, even though he is looking at me. You're looking at the reflection of John in my eyes is what it is.
Mike, how many more tattoos do you have?
A lot.
A whole
right
lot. Now than you did.
I got this bear. We went to our tribal naming ceremony in Connecticut. I'm a member of
I was going to guess it would be in Connecticut for sure. Yeah.
I'm strangely related to Connecticut Indians and the Pilgrims.
Wow.
And so I am Thanksgiving. Basically.
You could have kind of mediated the whole thing.
Yeah.
If you had been around back then.
They actually got along.
You're like,
they get along that day.
Hey, all you white people, just cover your mouth when you cough. That's going to do a lot of good for a lot of people here. That's the first thing we want to talk about.
Keep the blankets in the ship.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I have a bear. I have a bear on my arm.
I love that. That is really
that's
cool.
our tribal crest there.
Okay.
I'm actually setting up an appointment to get some more flowers down here.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're gonna sleeve it.
I never in a million years thought I'd be a tattoo sleeve kind of guy.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Well, I feel like once you start that party, it only ends one way.
Yeah, it's got to go all the way.
Especially if it dips sub sleeve.
Once
Short
you
sleeve,
go
short
past
sleeve.
the elbow, you've made it. You've made it.
Well, I'm saying I'll even give you high, like bicep
high by.
or mid bi.
Yeah, mid by.
Because it's like once people can see it, you're like, well, let's really let them see it.
Let's party.
Let's go.
I don't think I had Cosette.
You
here
didn't. You
from
didn't have
Les
that.
Mis.
Yeah, Les Mis. I didn't.
Yeah.
That's new.
That has got to be the most painful area. For the listener, it's like the inside of the arm.
Yeah.
That's got to be the most painful area to get attacked.
You know, I had a buddy tell
I can
me
think of
just
one.
a couple days
Other than
ago.
the,
He said he got one on the outside of his heel, and as he was
Oh,
describing
man.
it, I could feel
Yeah.
like a sickness in my
Yeah.
stomach and sweat
Yeah.
coming out of my.
I don't have any you can see, but like
Sure.
everybody says that the bone is what is like proximity to bone is the killer. So if it's like
Ugh.
thin and on the bone is where you feel.
Except for these, my John 13:35, up here close to my elbow, I could almost not feel it.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, because elbow
Yeah.
lack of nerves.
Yeah,
This
I
is-
don't have any bone up there. Though.
I really-
that is a medical condition I have. Not a lot of people know
No
that.
elbows.
No elbows.
So
Prosthetic.
Mike, we just like how are you? It has been. We're not going to do the brag sheet because everybody knows. Let me tell you what people
sure.
don't know that we'll get to though. I do feel like teaser. We have to kind of give as the trailer to this conversation is the band's back to like not the band's back together. That's not the right to say it. You've
reassembled.
Reassembled.
I guess is the way to say it.
yeah.
Is that the term that you've been using?
I haven't been using a term, but I'll stick
Okay.
with that now.
Okay.
This
Now
is
that
a
it's-
Dadville exclusive. He's reassembling.
Reassembling.
10th Avenue North is back together, reassembled. I don't know how to say it.
Mikey
that's
D
fine.
is reassembled.
Yeah.
That's the title.
Yeah.
We'll work on
Yeah.
it.
We'll work on it.
It's a placeholder.
We're workshopping. So that's big news. That's
It is
really
big
big
Hey,
news.
you've been working on this for how long now? Because you guys have been working on new music. I love your single.
Thank you.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Letting go for dear life.
Yes, that's it.
That's a great title.
That chorus
Thank
is. I texted you this. That chorus is undeniable.
My guy.
It is a really good chorus.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Our buddy Mark Sibilia, we work out every
yeah.
day, and he'll send me just a 5-second voice memo.
He is
He's
the king of that.
the
Just,
2-second voice memo.
I'm letting go for dear life. That's it. And that's it. Little
You're
voice
like, I
memo.
can run with that.
Yeah.
I really miss the videos of y'all running. That was always my favorite.
You
The
know.
Sibilia, like,
Sibilia is the only person I've ever worked out with who is eating snacks and taking conference calls while he's
While you're
running.
working it.
He
Yeah.
cannot do just one thing.
I can see that. Yeah.
But he did write me into one of his songs. There's a song on his album called Bittersweet where he says, "Me and Mike used to run every morning. He's twice as fast and he's 40. We talk about music and Jesus. He always slows down for me."
oh, that's cool.
And
that's
I was
cool.
like, that's obviously the best song you've ever written, Mark.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I remember when Rector wrote that Summertime song, such a good song, and he wrote Mogler into it, and I was always like, God, that's like a cool move. That's
That
like the
is cool.
ultimate dab.
I felt cooler than any success I've ever had.
yeah,
was
it's pretty.
being
Well,
written
it's such an
into a
amazing way to
song.
get memorialized. Like
Yeah.
to just like someone's like, this song will forever have your name in it.
And it's nice that he says your name, because if he hadn't said a name, but he told you that it was you, you would have to try to figure out a way to bring it up in conversation so that the people know that the guy who runs twice as fast as him is you.
You'd also like just watch his house to see if he's ever running with somebody.
You know, that's my dad is the king of the most awkward segues when he wants to brag on his kids. My dad's awesome.
Oh
'cause
yeah,
he just
yeah,
wants
no,
to.
I promise
he
you, my
just-
dad would give a run for his money.
I remember I walked into a coffee shop. We're in Winchester, Virginia, and we're playing this little fair. And I walk in with my dad, and this was his move. "Hey guys, we're at the register." He goes, "So, music playing.
Oh, that's a good
You guys
one.
like?
Now you're in.
You guys
That's
like?
all he needs.
You guys like
That's
music?
all he
My son here, this was the best. He's like, he's in a band called 10th Avenue North, and there's just the look of unknowing that glazes across their face. They go, "Oh, okay, cool." He goes, "My daughter is also in a band called the Lone Bellow." Equal parts unknowing.
And then he's like, I went to a Led Zeppelin show. Like, oh, we know them. You're like, all right, cool.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
I got to find a way to get out of this conversation. Yeah, my dad, I would probably give him a good run for his money on just how that comes up in scenarios. And
You're going to brag about your kids, though. It's
But
kinda
listen, I'd
redeeming.
rather it be that than the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dadville's. This is Dadville.
It is Dadville.
You got to promote the kids, man.
So with where you are, the band,
yes.
I have a lot of questions about this because it's really, really cool and fascinating to me. What was the impetus? Like, what got you to where you're like, it's time, I'm ready to.
I can't remember what exactly we talked about the last time I was on this because I don't really listen to your podcast. But
Okay.
We'll start recording.
We're about ready for the speed round. Let's wrap it up.
We'll record in a minute.
I mean, if they're this far into this episode, they're devout listeners. Let's be honest.
They all have 10th Ave shirts on.
Yeah.
The band retired. I think that's the better word. We didn't break up. My wife came to me, said, "I need you off the road." I said, okay. I told the rest of the guys, and they go, actually, we want to be off the road.
Yeah.
Well, then I started doing solo music because I thought that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
When your band doesn't want to keep being a band, you have to do solo. And that was fine until I went out and started playing shows. And then I just noticed it was just super confusing for people. They're like, wait, so are you going to play those songs? Well, sure. Oh.
So you were playing 10th Ave songs?
Well, of course. I wrote all the songs.
Yeah.
Or co-wrote all the songs. So I'm like, I love these songs. I am not that guy who gets up on stage and is like, I'm not playing the hits. I'm going to give you the B-sides. I go, you want to hear a song? You guys remember when you first started writing songs and you'd go around to your friends, you're like, God gave me this song. And they go, that's because he didn't want it anymore. And then you finally stumble upon that song that your friends wanted to hear a second time. I still feel like that every time I get on stage.
By the way, can I just pause for a second? I actually talked about that. I just did a run of shows last weekend. And I haven't really ever talked about that. And I made myself laugh remembering, everybody remembers this, John, like Mike, me, like any of our friends that have ever written songs, that moment, it is, I really think top 10 moments of my musical life is when I sat with Micah, who's my best friend, lives right up the hill, and I played him a song. And I think it was maybe Grace's Amazing Hands, but I played something that he was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, and he was like, did you write that?
You wrote that?
And it's like this, and it's like the meanest questions with the ultimate
you wrote that?
encouragement. It's the only time in your life where the meanest questions actually evoke incredible encouragement.
Right.
Because he's like, no, you wrote, like
disbelief measure, like in partnership with the appreciation.
But I
the perfect
I hadn't
compliment.
thought about that long. So it's funny you bringing that up because I literally was talking about that at these shows, and I would get so much joy remembering just that feeling because you only get it once. You know what I mean? Like once you prove that you can do it, everybody knows you can do it.
Yeah.
But like, man, that moment,
and then
playing,
you get to just crumble under the expectation of matching that inspiration.
A fleeting sweet moment. I went to college with the Sidewalk Prophets guys.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing them. They played at a chapel. We had chapel like Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they played this song "October Sky." At chapel, and it was that moment.
Wow!
For like as a listener, I was like, "Wait a minute," because there were tons of musicians at AU, lots of singer songwriters. You're hearing everybody's songs, and then I heard that song, and I was like, "That's like a real song."
Well,
they wrote that song.
Isn't it funny? It's like you just know as a listener.
Yeah,
you know the difference between like. It's that, man, you talking about the way God makes people and music. That's a whole other TED Talk. But just like the fact that you, like my buddy, Micah could sit and be like, I play him songs. He's like, yeah, these are cool. And then I play one song and he's like, whoa. This is different.
Hold the phone.
And like, what makes it different? Who knows? Like, what are the qualifications that he felt like? But somehow, the magic of October Sky or Grace or whatever,
I was just listening to, there's a song that I listen to every Father's Day. This is Dadville Podcast. Every Father's Day, I go for a drive. And I listen to this song, and I weep and weep and weep. It's
Is it one of my early ones?
Star Spangled Banner.
After I make it through all of John's catalog and all of Dave's catalog,
thank you.
Then I pull up this song by Brandon Flowers called "Between Me and You."
Oh,
do you know this song?
I know that tune.
And that's a song that when I listen to it, I can't believe a human being wrote it.
Yeah.
It's everything about it is perfect. He and I
had been in Las Vegas, and I woke up one morning, and I'd basically written it. And he was like, he said, what is that you're playing? I would love for that to be one of mine. And he changed one word. It was a to a the. And I was like, hey, congrats, go right.
Was I in the middle of a story? Was I on?
You were.
I think we got what we need.
Okay.
So band is reassembled. Check out the tour dates.
You said when you were beginning writing songs.
Oh, right.
Something about that.
So I was playing songs, and it got really confusing. And at that moment, so about a year ago, this is a strange detour in the story, but Mercy Me called and said, hey, would you guys reunite to do our cruise? Because we had done a couple
that's cool.
Mercy Me cruises. And their cruises are awesome because they only do a part of the boat. So you have this like group that you're on a retreat with, but the rest of the boat is normal. And that's a...
Are you saying y'all are special?
No, I'm saying... I'm saying,
no, cool.
if you've ever been like on a rock boat cruise, or
I know.
Caleb does
it's
cruise,
everywhere.
When everybody on the boat is there to see you, it's actually not a great situation. But when you're just part of the boat, so we go, the guys all instantly. Yes.
Wait. Do you? I see. You're saying it's a normal cruise,
correct,
for half the boat, and then they have Mercy Me has their.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, sorry. I thought
so. There's like a good mix of you're not the only thing happening on the boat, and I think that's nice.
Oh, that's really cool.
So it really feels like a vacation, and the guys all went, "Oh, yeah,
Hold
we'll
on
do
one second. This memo: call Bart about Mercy Me tour in 1 hour to invite yourself on to cruise. Go ahead.
Just text him out.
By the way, can we talk about how great those guys are?
Oh, they're the best.
I just went out and wrote with them at their rad studio.
Yeah.
Rad studio. And I was just like, you guys are they're just the best. They're like the greatest guys.
They are dads.
They
are
are
just happy dads.
God. You know the funniest thing? You know how funny they are. So they're hysterical. Small sidebar. When I walk in, I look at the mantle. You got to see the studio. It's so cool. It's old. It's a converted, basically like huge log cabin. Yeah. But it's like legit studio. It was Tommy Sims' studio, actually, back in the day.
Oh, wow.
I digress. But when you walk in, above the mantle, I look and there's this have you been in there?
Oh, yeah.
I look at the painting and I'm like, God, it looks like Mike. But I don't think it looks like kind of a mid-70s portrait, but it's big. I mean, it's like a sizable painting. And I just thought, God, that's so weird. That looks so much like Mike Snyder. So I walk in, we're talking, and then I was like, wait a second. That is Mike Snyder. And so I was like, please tell me the story. And then they basically they commissioned someone in like Japan to paint this. And they gave it to him. And he's like, I don't want this. And so now it is the feature painting above.
For those that don't know, Mike Snyder is the head of their booking.
Yeah, legendary
agency.
Booking guy in the Christian space. I'm just taking go.
No, that's great. That's great.
Go.
So they asked us on the cruise. So I said to the guys, hey,
when was this?
This was a year ago.
Oh, wow.
So we did the cruise in January of this past year.
Oh, nice.
But when that happened, I go, oh, you guys all want to come back to it? Let's do a couple of weeks together. Let's do a little reunion thing. And they all went, nah. I don't. And I know this is so. It's
Do you
so,
feel like you read the room wrong? Was it just sort of?
No, it's just so difficult for people who haven't ever toured. It just, to them, touring feels like, why would you ever not want to do it?
John.
Dave.
We're not businessmen. We're businessmen.
Man.
That didn't work as well in the plural.
That's okay.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof,
Which I think about that all the time.
You do, like Allbirds or your recorded music or Skims. Sure. You think about a great product or a cool brand, but an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business making selling simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify.
Nobody, Dave, and I will fight somebody who says otherwise. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet, and the not-so-secret Shop Pay, which boosts conversions up to 50%. That's 50, Dave.
Yeah. You know what that means, John?
What?
Way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going.
So, if you're into growing your business, and I know you are, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are, scrolling or strolling. On the web, in the store, in their feed, and everywhere in between.
Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify.
Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Dadville, all lowercase.
Go to shopify.com/Dadville to upgrade your selling today.
Shopify.com/Dadville. Hey everybody, listen, if you're a parent looking for some extra support in raising your kids to know, love, and follow Jesus, boy oh boy have we got a great resource for you.
Over the next few months, our friends at Christian Parenting are focusing on all the topics that matter to you and your family, from discipling your kids and teaching them good faith habits to helping your kids develop a secure identity in Christ.
Christian Parenting is on a mission to help parents just like us and just like you to set aside perfection and grow into the perfectly imperfect parents God created us to be, providing practical resources to help parents instill biblical values, nurture character, and foster a deep relationship with God and their children.
They have printed products for kids and adults, digital resources, and podcasts to help us confidently raise the next generation of culture-changing Christians.
Subscribe to get free parenting resources each week at christianparenting.org/signup.
That's christianparenting.org/signup.
Well, and this is not the typical way that bands either stay together forever or most of them break up and there's like a story there and there's drama and there's tension. You never hear about the bands that stop because they're all making responsible decisions as husbands and fathers and, you know.
And here I am bringing it back. So you can see who the irresponsible
we've got those,
one is.
John has those questions. I'm good cop, he's bad
Let's
cop.
not get ahead of ourselves. Go ahead.
But yeah, I kind of wish there was more juicy bits to tell.
Right.
I still live on a street with two of my former band members.
Yeah.
Jeff and I are still... So Jeff comes to me and he goes, "Hey, do you want to bring the band back?" I go, "Well, I just wanted you guys to come back." And he and my wife and a couple mentors and a couple other friends in the industry all kind of around the same time went, "Why don't you bring the band back?" And so he said that. He's like, "I'm cool. I'll write with you," you know, because he's actually been co-writing some of the songs. We did a little writing retreat down in Florida. So he's kind of like the silent member now. He's still writing songs, but he's just, I don't want to tour anymore. You know? And then fast forward a couple of months later, and my wife came, and you know she was the one who said, "I need you home."
Yeah, right.
Well, she's like, "So you've been home for 4
"Forget I said
years?" Actually,
She's like, "You're a lot."
actually, I could use a little space. And our 4 girls are now in school full time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just from 4 years ago to now, it's just a completely different experience.
So,
Because just real quick, how old are they?
My youngest is 6.
So, okay.
So she's in first grade now.
Yep.
And then my oldest is a freshman in high school.
Okay, cool.
So, which is wild.
So is that an idea, what you're doing now, was that something that you had thought about before, but you were like, I can't even float that idea out of respect for...
I had just not even, when all the guys said, "We're done," I went, then it's done.
Yeah,
It's done. Yeah.
And then it was just over the years, you know, people go, why don't you bring the band back? I was like, well, these guys don't want to play. I'm like, but you could. And it really started, I was at a retreat, I was at a conference in California, and I was texting with the Switchfoot guys. And John goes, "Why don't you come down and check out the studio?" So I was with them, and I really, you know, they still are the guys I look up to. They just are awesome.
The greatest.
And I started telling them about the solo thing versus the band thing, and they looked at me and went, "Well, you can kind of do whatever. There's no rules. There's kind of a precedent for whichever way you go. There's already a band that's done it that way."
Yeah.
And so once the band seemed to be like, "Hey, we're cool. Thumbs up. Double thumbs up. You want to do it? Go for it." That's when I went, "Oh." And I had, for my solo music, I had some guys I'd started playing with, and I floated the idea. I go, "Hey, I think I might bring the band back." They go, "Yes."
Wow.
You know, and so, that's interesting. And I quickly just trying to do the solo thing. I could have done it. It is way cheaper when you're just thinking about one person's finances. But the first show I ever did was with 10th Avenue North. And so I'm just a band guy. And really, truthfully, lack the necessary skills to wow anyone musically.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Push back on that.
Well, I just love creating music, and community is always such a big part of what I tell other guys. And so it just felt weird getting back out on the road and not having a group you're doing it with.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I think for listeners who don't, because, you know, that's pretty, like, that's insider baseball. I think people that are listening going like, well, why is that a big deal? It really is a big deal. I mean, for John and I and those of us who've always been solo, you work out of a very specific mindset. You don't have to clear things with people. Yep. You kind of, you're all in one, but you're also like when you travel, it can get pretty lonely. You're by yourself. There's no, so there's good and bad, but same for band. It's like you guys who came up in a band, that's a very specific way to the posture and just where you fit in the world of music. And so when it goes, I'm sure it's got to be, like you said, you really feel that.
Yeah.
As much as I think John and I, if we were to join a band, would feel the weight of like, oh man, there's a lot of people to manage here. I'm not used to doing that. Yeah. To go from all those people to just it's a big shift. And I think for people who aren't in the music world,
did you feel when you stepped on stage as Mike Donehey for the first time, did that change anything about your relationship with the audience in a really inside mental kind of way?
Well, I'm actually really glad I did it, just because I found more confidence in the things that I have to say between the songs. Mm-hmm. And even, we did a couple festivals. We did about 8 shows just now, the last couple weeks, as 10th Avenue North. And some old friends in different bands were at some of the different festivals, and they said, man, it was always good before. There's a joyful weight to your presence on stage.
Wow,
now.
Geez.
And
what does that mean?
I don't know exactly. I just think I'm a little bit steadier, and I've learned that there's things that I have to say that I want to say that I think really resonate with people. And before, I think I didn't want to talk too much because I didn't want to, let's talk more rock. The band is here. Got to make sure they're all cool. Mm-hmm. But these new guys are going, hey, we see this gift in you. We want you to do that. And
that's so cool.
There's just as we get older, I would hope we get more secure and confident in the gifts that we feel we have to share.
Mm-hmm. So this was one of the things I was thinking about with you doing it. Do you feel like approaching it now? I mean, it's such a different season of your life. You've got so much experience. Where like round one, you don't. You're just kind of, you guys are just sort of walking in all at the same time together. Like, what are some of the things you found yourself thinking about now that you're doing it again? Are there lessons you're like, man, I need to remember this is the way to do this, not this? Or like things you're like, oh, I'm really excited about doing this maybe differently this time because I get to sort of revamp it,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, there's 1,000 things I could say to that, I think, it's funny getting back out. Being like, you were playing festivals. Do you remember 10th Avenue North? Or I would say, or maybe you go, I think I remember you from middle school. And, half the crowd raises their hand. Like, oh, yeah, here we are.
Oh, yeah.
Just how people experience you and remember you. And I just think the biggest thing, this is more of a philosophical thing, not as practical as probably you were asking, but philosophically, I just am so much more grateful to be on stage.
That's great. Yeah.
That anybody cares about any of the music I've ever written.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it isn't a self-depreciating thing.
Yeah.
It's just, as you get older, you realize how little you are in control of things.
Yeah.
And you're just in awe, especially I just get more and more appreciation for other artists as I get older. And I go, you want to listen to me? That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it? That's so beautiful. I can't think of, that's the thing about our 20s doing music, I think, is like, it's just so much in the best way. It's so much, moxie. There's just a lot of like, I'm up here just doing my thing, and you got to have confidence. You wouldn't be up there, right? Yep. In whatever context, Christian, secular, you just got to have it, or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But there's like, well, yeah, you're here. The music's great, right? And then I do feel like now in my 40s. John and I talk about this all the time, but like, and I say this every night now. Yeah. I'm like, I almost get hand on the Bible, I almost get teary every night thinking of coming, because I'm like, I appreciate this now. This used to be a given. I'm doing music and it's great.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome.
But now it's like, that's such a beautiful thing. I can imagine that would be, especially having a break from that iteration of your music, to come back in and be like, man.
And here's the big, this, I was talking to a buddy who, he played drums for 10th Ave right at the end before we disbanded. And he's working for a band called We the Kingdom, and we did a festival together with We the Kingdom. So we're sitting side stage, and I said, man, the last couple of years of 10th, if I'm honest, it was hard because it was like all the other guys wanted to be somewhere else more than they wanted to be out on the road.
Yeah.
And he stopped me, and he corrected me, and it was a great correction. He goes, was it that they didn't want to be here, or was it that they just wanted to be somewhere else more?
Wow.
Wow. I think I didn't say that correctly, but that was the thing he said to me that really hit me of, oh, right. And for whatever reasons, to be out, these new guys are just, this is where we want to be.
Yeah.
And so just the 8 shows we've done have just felt so free.
That's so
because
great.
they're all in a stage of life where they're free to be out. They want to be there. There isn't as much competition. And, I'm divorced. I don't talk to my kids anymore, so I'm just free to be out.
So much
just
cleaner now. You can just
well-worn
focus on
path
the music.
in the CCM industry.
For me, like for my wife to be at a place where, she's not drowning in our kids.
Yeah.
Because that baby time is just so much.
Intense.
So intense. And so to be doing this in a different season.
Yeah.
And practically, we're going to go out 2 weekends, and then we're going to be home 2 weekends. And we are going to schedule fall break. We are not doing any shows in fall break. We're not doing any, we're not doing any Christmas shows this year.
Yeah.
Like, there's just, I am prioritizing the family's needs above the band's needs. And everybody in the band now is bivocational.
Oh, wow.
So they've got something else to do, so it isn't completely riding upon the band.
Yeah.
And that was something that I wish we had done earlier in 10th.
Yeah,
It's gone,
yeah.
we're going to tour for 6 months, then we're going to take a year off. Everybody figure it out.
Yeah.
And that sounds harsh, but I think that would have been wiser.
Well, the thing that about bands that always fascinates me is you think about like marriage, like, that one of our therapists, I've said it a million times on here, said one time, like he had been married, I don't know, 25 years. Like, I'm in my 5th marriage to my wife, right? Like the iterations of marriage. It's the same as a band. It's like, the things that you were excited about making musically when you were 25 and what you wanted to be, and then just personality wise, where you were with your headspace and what you want to do are going to change so much. And especially in a band, I would say kind of like dog years.
Yeah.
You can do that twice in a year sometimes, I would imagine, because it's just the way that sort of group of people work in a musical context. So to think that you're not going to change, to think that like you're going to always want that thing or to want it as much as you used to is a pretty, and again, when I think of bands that have been together, I'm like, this is one of the most miraculous things in the history of time of anything is just that bands 40-year-old bands, 50 can stay together because it takes a million micro details that work.
Yeah.
And so I think it's fun to hear you say that because I can imagine when you've been with people that long, it's like it would be easy to turn your left or right and see the guys and be like, yeah, it just doesn't feel, and not for bad, but just like life happens.
Well, some fans have come up, oh, I miss the old guys. And I go, me too. And I'm just so grateful that none of us sacrificed our family on the altar of the band.
Yeah.
And that, my drummer, Jason, is who I started the band with. And I remember he always said, when my oldest daughter starts middle school, I'm getting off the road.
Wow.
And we came to that moment.
Wow.
And he took a job with Compassion. I still work with him, and our daughters are best friends. And I'm just so proud of him. I'm proud that he followed that conviction.
Yeah. So speaking of the fam, do you have 4 daughters?
I have 4 daughters.
6, 14?
6 to, almost 15, about to turn 15.
I mean, a lot has happened in the last 3 years. I can't believe it's been 3 years since we had a conversation with you. What's going on? Give us the rundown. I've got half as many daughters as you, 9 and 11. And I mean, Luca just started middle school a couple weeks ago. I feel like my life right now, it is so I don't know what the word is. Intense, so eventful. There's just every day there's stuff going on.
Yeah.
And we've got 3 years of 4 daughters. Like,
Okay.
give us the rundown.
When my second daughter was 2, I had this moment, and I'm so grateful that I had it because I've had to rehav the same moment over and over and over again. We were at a friend's house, and we had brought our 2 older girls. We didn't have our third yet, and we are committing to we're going to hang out, we're going to do this dinner, and we're going to put our kids down and pack and plays and just hang out.
Yeah.
Well, my second daughter, wouldn't go to sleep. And so I'm in there in this side room, rocking her sleep, and just go to sleep. I've got to get to the party.
You're hearing them laughing in the other room.
Yeah,
You're
just
missing it.
total FOMO. And there's this moment where I felt like, God said, you are not always going to be friends with these people. You are always going to be her dad.
Wow. Jeez.
So which relationship do you want to prioritize?
Yeah.
And I remember going, daggone it. And I sunk into the moment. I chose the moment that I was resisting. And I got flooded with this peace and just cherished it. Well, that moment keeps happening.
Yeah.
And it looks like I need to be at a middle school football game.
Yeah.
When I get invited to this or do this. There's just 1,000 things now. And there's a balance to that. But I think at the end of the day, the big advice that has always come back to me, and I probably said this the last time I was on here, but anytime I have a mentor or someone older who has adult children and they all like each other, I just grab them and I squeeze their face and I tell me what to do. And unequivocally, it's the same advice, and it's be interested.
Yeah.
And I've actually reduced that down to delight in them.
Yeah.
And it's like, if my daughters feel like I'm delighted in them, it rectifies so many errors. But the problem is, the moments they offer you are always the moments where it's in conflict with something else you want to do.
Right.
So last night, my 9th grader, I've finally gotten my 6-year-old to bed. I've finally gotten my 10-year-old to bed. And we, stupidly created these traditions of singing songs to them every night. And so every night that I'm home, you got to sing through the catalog of songs, all of Dave Barnes' songs, all of John McLaughlin's songs.
What songs?
So my 6-year-old, I have to sing Fix You every night.
Wow.
Top to bottom.
Are you doing the guitar?
We do the na.
You really sing the whole song?
Well, it's abridged. It's an abridged version, but we sing the whole first verse, the chorus, an abridged version of the bridge, and then another chorus at the end. So,
Yeah.
And
by the way, she's going to never be able, like, years and years from now, when you're gone, years and years from now, she will, that song will end her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that song's going to go on the radio and she's just a pull over.
Pick one that's already going to end her anyway, and then just double up on it.
That's right.
And so get them to bed, and then, and then my 15-year-old's like, Dad. And, I'm spent. I just want to go to sleep. This is last night. And she goes, I'm working on a book. And I go, what? She goes, yeah, you want to read it? No. No, I want to go to sleep. And okay. So, and you choose them. And I was going to watch an episode of something and just, this is the moment she's offering me.
Yeah.
And I have to choose it. And it's her book is amazing. It's like a Mockingbird, what's a Hunger Games thing. It starts with an explosion, the parents die, and then she's in this weird compound. It was just way more involved. That's every great Disney movie.
Can we pause there?
Every great Disney movie.
There, Mike,
that
with
is
the parents
true.
dying, and let's sit there.
Isn't that every Disney movie?
Yeah.
It is.
It's like the parents are gone.
When you were recounting that, when you were like, I get the other 2 down, and then I walk out, and my 15-year-old says, Dad. I'm like, just right there. That is such a win. If you just pause time for that, just my 15-year-old says, Dad. I'm 3 years behind you a bit, and I feel the same way that you were saying. Anytime you talk to somebody who has older kids and everyone loves each other, you're just like desperately like, give me knowledge and wisdom. That's such a win right there, that your daughter was like, that she wants to even show her dad.
Her and my second born both asked me to speak at their middle school chapel last year. And I went, I've made it.
Yeah.
And I talked to my buddies who, kind of gave me this advice years ago. And they said, the problem we see in our friends is they're not interested in their kids' stuff when they're young. Because it's kid stuff. It's like, I don't connect with that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden your kid is in 8th grade. And now they want to talk about the stuff you want to talk about. And now you go, okay, I'm ready to talk to you.
Yeah.
What does the kid say? Forget that.
Yeah.
You haven't been interested in what I'm interested in this whole time. And now you just all of a sudden want to be interested? No. Mm-hmm. And that's a heavy thing with your kid is you can't fake that. You can't. There's no way to hijack that system. You have to give them your time. It's the one thing we don't want to have to give our kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially like you said, because it really is when they're young. It is like, oh my gosh, are we really going to talk about this again? And you're just like, okay, yeah, like so. And then you're like, tell me again one more time who she's in yours in first grade class.
Just there was friend gossip drama last week at the football game, and I had to hear about it 4 different times, and then it's the biggest deal, and then all of a sudden, hey, so how did it go? So we're good now.
Yeah. Like, What? So tell me, this is really fascinating. One of our Annie and my dear friends, the Hogans, live down in Jackson, and they have 4 girls. Yeah. And they're just the greatest. Like, Caroline and Reed are like the greatest parents, and the girls are just the greatest. They're so fun to be with. But, categorically, numerous and only girl kids, it can get real tricky, right? Because you're managing. I mean, both of y'all know this. I don't. I just have one in the middle of boys. But like, that's something Annie and I talked a lot about before we had kids. Is she was like, I want to have a girl, but she's like, having numerous girls terrifies me because she said, I've just seen so many families that have numerous girls, and it's either like the best thing in the world. Like I know families like that where I couldn't wait to go over to their houses, even college, high school, whatever, because it was like, it is so unique, that thing. Yeah. It's so fun. And on the right day, it's like the best thing ever. But man, it can go left so fast.
But when they all sync up at that time of the month?
Yeah, well, there you go. But so for you, with 4 of them, like, what is it that you find are particular to not just all girls, but that many girls?
Right. Well, statistically, if you have all girls, your chance of living to 100 go up.
Really?
Isn't that
strange? Is that true?
It's a study.
Wow.
I mean, it depends on.
And if you have 2 boys,
you'll live to 47.
Boys.
47's kind of.
It seems to me you have boys, you have broken things. With girls, you're dealing with broken hearts.
Wow.
Yeah. So what do you have to mend? And with the girls, they really are just all trying to mother the one below them.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then
That's
our
really
youngest
good.
is just, giving the fist to everybody. Just wants to do her own thing. And
that's so funny.
I make a joke about it. Someone's always crying in my house, and sometimes my girls are crying too. But it really is. It really is. Someone is crying and someone is laughing at all times.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Here we go.
Listen in. Starbucks. It's a great day for coffee.
I felt that early on as a dad. I remember thinking like one of the myriad of things that is so intense and jarring about being a parent is the quickness that we can go from extreme emotion to another extreme emotion. And this isn't exclusive to girls, but I mean, you're laughing hysterically and then you are crying like it's the end times. I felt like, I remember feeling like I can't go through, I'm being dragged through these emotions. Yeah. I can't do it. It's like taking years off of my life.
Xana is so funny. I only have one, but I think maybe so she's got the power of 4. consolidated. But like, she is so not committed to whatever emotion she's in. That's what I've learned. And I don't know, I'm not saying that's a girl thing. That may be a Xana thing, but it's comical because I kind of hacked that really early on. Because Xana would be like, how? And I was like, oh, if she's crying, I know how to make her laugh like immediately. Yeah. And she'd be like, ah! And I could do it. She'd be like, and she's like, that we have a psycho. And I was like, I don't know. It just feels like for her, and I wonder if that's. I'm saying that because do y'all like? I mean, it's older. I'm sure it's very different because we're
you're gonna create a lot of great trauma for her. She gets
she dismisses
all her
sad
feelings.
We haven't seen her in a couple of years.
That's great. Sad feelings are not okay around Dad.
Yeah,
She's got the memo. It's great.
No, you haven't seen her when she feels things. It's
no, I agree.
It's Hulk-like.
And I do think another lesson is like they don't take anything from some past experience. They're moving on. Yeah. They'll be hysterically crying or super mad at me for something, and then 10 minutes later, it never happened.
What, do you guys follow Dr. Becky Goodinside? It's a crazy name. She's got millions of followers on Instagram now, but it's just parent advice, and she talks about that giving your kid permission to feel. They say that if your kid is super emotional at home, then usually at school they're very obedient. And if they're super crazy at school, they are forced to be very
then we are killing it.
And I know
we have
it's so backwards. You think, oh, these huge emotions, what am I doing wrong? But you're actually telling them it's safe to have those emotions.
Yeah.
Well, that's Daystar Sissy talks about as a David, like the home is the lab.
Can I tell you a funny thing about Sissy? My daughter. So this is a big thing that happened that we could talk about. Last year, my second born daughter, she started having panic attacks. Outrageous panic attacks out of nowhere. She was watching this Enola Holmes movie, and a character gets stabbed and has a little blood come out of her mouth, and then all of a sudden, every day she'd go, ow. Oh, I have blood in my mouth. I have blood in my mouth. I have blood in my mouth. And she'd be screaming.
Jeez.
And somewhere along the way, we got her in to see Sissy. And she had been seeing a different therapist, counselor. And Sissy's talking to Nora. And she's like, so, what did you like and not like about your other counselor? And she's like, well, she made me read this stupid book. And it's called blah, 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 blah. And Sissy goes, yeah, I wrote that book.
Oh my gosh.
So perfect. But we went through, I don't know how deep you want to go here, but she started having these panic attacks. And so, we took her to a therapist because it was debilitating. We'd have to get her out of school several times a week.
Yeah.
Jeez.
She would scream unabated for an hour. So imagine your 12-year-old daughter screaming, throwing herself against the wall, screaming she wants to die. I'm a little removed from it now, so I can talk about it. And we didn't know what to do. Start taking to her counselor, and she's like, oh, she's classic OCD. She's got this. And I always thought OCD, washing your hands. That's OCD.
Right.
It's just so, it's such a broad thing, and so many things get funneled down into this thing. And we were just on this search for months, probably 8 months.
Jeez.
And in that time, I don't know how spiritual you guys like to go here on the Dadville podcast because I don't listen to it, but there's my buddy asked me to come speak at his church in Phoenix, which was a cool thing. As a solo artist, I started getting asked to speak alongside playing, so I got to develop that side of me. And he asked me to speak on Mark chapter 5. And I'm in the middle of this thing. And Mark chapter 5 is about a woman with the issue of blood for 12 years. It says she's had this issue of blood. And then there's Jairus' daughter who dies because Jesus is healing this woman and gets sidetracked. And as Jairus is hearing, your daughter has died, Jesus is saying to this woman, daughter, your faith has made you well. And you got to imagine Jairus is like, that's the wrong daughter. And that's how I'm feeling. Why not my daughter? Why is she going through this? And then Jairus goes, oh, she's just sleeping. And he goes to the house. Talitha Kum, little girl, rise up. And then I'd never noticed this before. But at the end of that chapter, Mark says, oh, and the little girl, Jairus' little girl, was 12 years old.
Jeez.
So the woman's issue of blood was 12 years. The little girl's 12.
Wow.
My daughter is 12. And I felt like it was God saying, see this woman with this issue? 12 years is too long to suffer. See this little girl? 12 years is too young to die.
Wow.
It's going to feel like I'm not there on time. But trust me, And I've been thinking a lot about, we always love to go to God with these victory stories about, oh, he pulled me out, he healed me. And that was a moment where I was really overcome with the idea that God, who's our Father, sends his Son to not just fix us, but to feel it with us. Like Jesus walked around for 30 years before he fixed anything. And that's important for us dads to remember, that we want to fix our kid. We want to fix their problems. And when we do that, Dr. Becky actually says that's what creates entitlement. Entitlement is when your kid encounters an issue, and then over and over and over, every time they encounter an issue, you immediately step in and solve it for them. That's where entitlement comes from.
Wow.
You actually have to let them suffer. And you don't let them suffer alone, but you suffer with them. And that's what God and Jesus, I believe, has shown us, that he is willing to suffer with us while he is working out healing that we can't see. So fast forward, I tell a friend who's in football, hey, my daughter's dealing with this. We're going to put her on medication. We don't know what else to do. And he goes, hey, before you do that, and I sidebar here for all like the church folk that listen to your podcast. In the church, it seems like a lot of folks are totally cool. You break a bone, we should put a cast on it. But you have a mental issue, you need to cast a demon out of it.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I believe God's grace looks like medication. God's grace looks like therapy. God's grace looks like scripture. God's grace looks like surgery. God's grace looks like crutches. God's grace looks like, herbs and vitamins. God's grace takes many forms. So I had a football friend. He's like, I'm dealing with concussions. I've heard this thing that I'm doing is really great for OCD and anxiety. And he turned me to a center that's not far from here. It's called the Harmonized Brain Center.
We go.
You go.
The Barnes family goes.
Bro, anytime I'm in a podcast, or I'm just want to throw this out there, because
she is amazing.
It's not a fix-all, but...
so did it help?
My daughter went. She was having a panic attack every single day for 8 months. Since she went for 8 weeks, 15 minutes, 8 times, 8 weeks, she's had one full-blown panic attack since then.
No way.
Crazy.
And it's crazy because she still starts the same way, has the same
build up,
but then she's able to actually, it's like she really is able to finally use her whole brain to talk through it and figure out what's going on.
Is this neurofeedback?
Yeah, neurofeedback.
Is that the thing?
Ours was, there's different kinds called lens therapy. But any parents listening, obviously it's not a fix-all, but it's something to look into for sure.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Man. See, this is one of the things I'm thinking about is there are a couple thoughts in my head. Like, I know that there are in our age, there's a lot of people getting on social media or getting on a podcast, and in some people's opinions, maybe this is a generational thing, oversharing, right? And I get that. I get where they're coming from. I get that you don't want to get up on social media and overshare, I guess. I definitely lean the other way big time, and I feel like this story that you're telling, this is like a case for sharing. I'm not going to say oversharing, but I mean, that's going to help. You sharing that with your football friend he was able to tell you about this place that then you got help. I feel like we are, and I don't know if this is exclusive to the church, I don't know, but I do feel like people overshare. I mean, just you telling me this story, this is helpful to me. You just never know what people are going through. You know?
And time and place.
Sure.
Once we're on the other side of it, it's a whole lot easier to share about.
Right.
But when we were going through it, I was sharing, but not in a public way. So you kind of need to gauge, what concentric circle of expansion should I be sharing with?
Right.
And there's different levels of intimacy, like I'm more intimate with my wife than my kids, and my kids than my best friends, than my best friends with my friends, and my friends with acquaintances, with strangers, neighbors, or whatever. So that's okay to have differing levels of intimacy, but you got to be sharing with somebody, man.
Well, and I think that there's maybe this innate thing in all of us. I know it's in me, where you tend to just think that I look at the Doneheys and I'm like, they're crushing it. They're crushing it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Just,
we're doing, I'm not saying we're the best, but we're probably the best.
Thank you for
pretty
that.
Good.
That's a Dave Barnes impression. You even look across the street. But and I feel that maybe most when you're going through some intense thing at home. And we've had intense times with our kids, and we've had things that, chronic issues that have gone on that really make you feel alone. You can really, really feel alone. And maybe there's nothing harder than when it's your child going through something that you just can't figure out. It consumes your life. So all that to say, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely the worst thing we've been through as parents.
Yeah.
Unequivocally.
And the tricky thing with panic attacks is like once you have one, then just the fact that you've had one
Could
can
create
induce another one.
Well, that's the stat. I mean, you know this. Annie had one on a plane, but like that's the thing is once you have one, it's like, oh boy, because you know it's a thing.
Yep.
You know it can happen. Yeah. Speaking of sharing, one thing I wanted to ask you about, which is something that I so appreciate about you.
Are you asking me or Mike? Because usually you leave that with me.
I'm just going to steer right in the middle between the two of you.
Because I'll answer if it feels appropriate.
Sure. But your name's Mike. Let's start there. And recently you posted on social media about the Olympics opening ceremony. You kind of weighed in, and you're not someone. I was talking to Dave about this beforehand. I don't feel like you are someone who, if there is any inkling of, oh, is this an issue? I'm gonna weigh in on that, and then like, oh, here's another one. I'm gonna jump in on that. I don't feel like that is your posture, but I do see you as someone who you're in the public eye. Obviously, you are a public Christian, but you're not afraid to jump in and give very thoughtful 2 cents on issues. And I so appreciate that about you. I know that you know going in, this is going to get the comments going. You're going to get a lot of pushback. And I appreciate that you speak up. And I'm curious, what is your mentality on that? How do you gauge when to say something? How much thought do you give to that? What's that like on the inside for you?
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I do feel like we can err on both sides, right? You're either weighing in on everything or you're not speaking up at all. And I always think when I see people who weigh in on everything, I go, wow, you don't care about anything, do you? You're so desperate to look like you care about everything that no person has that much capacity to care this deeply about everything. Mm-hmm. And that actually, it's kind of like what's so beautiful about us sitting in this room is the fact that you're limited makes this moment more special.
That's right.
The fact that you can't be everywhere else.
Because you've chosen to be here.
Yeah. So when you weigh in on something, if you weigh in on less things, it actually makes when you weigh in more special, you know? And I always think about this. There's 2 lines that Paul says to Timothy when they think he knows he's about to die. 2 Timothy, he's like, look, Timothy, you need to be able to teach patient and kind with everybody, and correct your opponents with all gentleness. Perhaps God will grant them repentance. And there's just such a special thing about those couple sentences where he's like, you need to be kind to everyone. I looked at the Greek, and it means kind to everyone. Patiently enduring evil is what he says. So when I write and people start slinging things at me, I'm like, okay, we're not going to get defensive. We're going to patiently endure this. And then when I correct, I'm not going to correct to be right. I'm going to correct. I'm going to speak what I believe is right, but with all gentleness. In other words, what's more important, what you say or how you say it? I would say scripturally, yes. Mm-hmm. The answer is actually yes. Speak the truth in love. And so the Olympic outrage article that I wrote, I'd written this book called Grace in the Gray, A More Loving Way to Disagree. And so I watched that all unfold. And you'll notice whenever I try to weigh in on something, I always try to wait longer than I think. So I waited a week, where a lot of times that kind of stuff is the moment it happens, everyone's posting, everyone's saying stuff. Yeah. And I kind of let the dust settle a little bit. And then I still want to speak when it's of relevance to people. And I just looked at it. I go, I just think it's just strange when people who call themselves Christians are just shocked and horrified at people who do not claim to be Christians to live as though they were Christians. I was like, why do you expect someone who does not share your values to live as though they share your values? And especially, a lot of people talked about drag queens and the sexual thing about kids, and there's, the job of the state to protect children from a certain level of, should you be able to show boobs on primetime TV? There's like questions about that are not about what I felt like the argument was. And I felt like the argument was, we need to correct these sexually deviant
how dare they
people.
How could they do this?
And I think you can say, I do not think it's appropriate for whatever. But the demonization of somebody, I think you really miss the plot. And that just felt like something that I wanted to weigh in on. And when I do weigh in on that, I really try to commit at least a day or two to really actually respond as lovingly as I can to every comment that comes through. And that takes a lot of, I have to take breaks. I have to take a walk. I go, can I handle more of this? Because people get real gnarly. But I've noticed that when I really lead, especially when someone's really vehemently disagreeing with me, when I respond and lead with curiosity and kindness, you usually get to the heart of the matter real quick. Yeah. And then you can very quickly tell if someone has no interest in conversating but sometimes you actually can really turn a corner.
Well, the thing that, I'm so glad that was your stance, because I think like that is all, I think just that one thing, if Christendom could click whichever way, right or left, 3 clicks on that. Just like take that was one of the greatest things. My dad, that was always his stance. He was a pastor his whole career, but like he was always like, you can't get mad at the world for being the world. Like, and so that was imbued in me from a very young age. And so by the grace of God, those things don't prickle me as much, because I'm like, well, I think they're just doing what they know to do. Like and I feel like if we could all sort of onboard that information, it would just make our experience with our friends who don't believe what we do so much better, because there's just so much less affronting and how dare they and who are you. And look, I do get, man, I wasn't prepared for my kids to see that. And now I have to have a really hard conversation about some things that they're too young, I believe, to have. But here we go. The other side of that is it to me is such an interesting read on the way we respond really reveals our hearts. So if it's anger, like, okay. If it's sadness, that's different, right? Yeah. If there's a grief there of like, man, this is so sad to see that this is what they wanted to do, because I think it means these things, as opposed to like, I'm grabbing my spear and I'm rushing into. I'm just like it's. I'm always so saddened by that response in Christendom because I'm just like, man, how do we keep missing the
a really reductive way that I try to think about it is do I believe it's us versus them or us for them?
Yeah.
And when I think of it that way, then it changes why I correct. And, just to get in the weeds a bit, 1 Corinthians 5 is about church discipline. And it's a really strange little passage. And Paul's basically like, there's a guy in the church who's sleeping with his stepmom, and everyone's stoked about it. Tale as old as time. Everyone's tale as old as time.
Every church plant has had to have that conversation.
But he says, should you not have called this guy out? He goes, and of course, I don't mean the people in the world. He goes, because if you're calling out the people in the world, where are you going to live?
Yeah.
He goes, but the people among you, you need to be holding each other accountable. And it's just funny. I find it's exactly the opposite in a lot of church culture.
Yeah.
That we want to shout and rave at the world, but we know our friend is having an affair, and, I can't.
Yeah.
Not my business.
I can't say anything about that.
Well, I think some of that, too, is it infers an accountability you don't want.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like if I call you out, well, then shoot.
No,
that means I'm now in the center of the target, too.
Yeah, but it's always so. Social media as a larger thought is just. I had a real shift about a year and a half ago, where on my personal social media stuff, I just started going. I want to look at this as a tool to serve people with, as opposed to as artists we're always doing that weird dance of I need to get more followers, so more people will come to the shows so I can actually have a career at this. And I was in a Q&A with a girl, and I was with this other artist who had gone viral and gotten a record deal because of this viral stuff that she was posting. And this sweet high school girl goes, "Hey, how do I blow up on TikTok like you did?" And this artist, really great answer, just gave her a lot of practical stuff about algorithm and even just, hey, you just got to put your stuff out there and not worry about what people think of you and da-da-da-da. And she answered, it was a great answer. It's a great answer. And I said, hey, can I ask you a question? She goes, yeah. I go, how many followers do you have? And she goes, I have 724. I go, congratulations. I go, congratulations. You're crushing Jesus at the follower game. She goes, well, he spoke to thousands. I go, have any of your posts had over 1,000 views? Well, yeah, a couple. I go, well, he only had 12 followers, close followers. And just that thought of what if and it changes what I post about and what I chime in on when I go, instead of trying to amass more followers, how do I actually serve the ones who are already paying attention to me?
Yeah.
And then I start to look at it as a responsibility of there are things that I've thought about and care about and I think are very helpful thoughts. And I'm actually able to post those and talk to people even when I know, especially in a 90-second format, whatever, that there's going to be people who misunderstand me. And letting go of being misunderstood, that's like,
yeah,
that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's like a superpower in 2024.
Yeah.
Like so many roads lead there. Mike, we
ready?
We have taken so much of your time. We know that you have so many things that you're about to go and do, and one of those is to outrun Mark Sibilia. He's going to love hearing that.
You guys,
side note,
if this is your job, you have the greatest job in the world.
Right? I mean, in between interviews, we still just sit here.
Yeah, I'll ask John things.
Yeah.
About you.
Or we'll be like, what do you think Mike would say about this one?
That would be a great bit in your podcast, a follow-up where you talk about the guest behind their back. Like, boy, he really missed it on that one.
Yeah. Or a pre-episode, the week before, is with Mike Donehey, but we just ask all the same questions. Be like, what do you think he's going to say? I'll be like, I bet he'll quote Corinthians on this one.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
Speaking of I just have to say, because you talked about the running with Mark Sibilia, when I was out on the road with you guys, I don't know if you're still into the, I remember you saying that you had talked to some like 88-year-old insanely in shape dude, and you were like, how do you stay in such great shape? And he was like, just do 100 burpees a day. That's it.
I do remember that. Yeah.
I remember doing burpees with you.
I
think
remember
a
that.
couple times outside of venues. It's one of the like hardest I've ever worked out on a tour before.
It's awful. Burpees are awful.
They're the worst.
Gotta do them.
But you look like you haven't stopped doing them.
You know what I started doing with Jason, my old drummer? Once a week, we have a group who gets together at the Cornelia Airport Park, and we do a Murph once a week.
Oh yeah. What is a Murph again?
It's ridiculous.
It's when you eat a whole pizza,
a
number one from
Caesar
McDonald's,
salad, and then
a Caesar
You
salad.
throw a Caesar salad away.
Yeah.
And then a
Go to
milkshake
McDonald's.
from either Dairy Queen, Baskin Robbins, or
That's it.
maybe Culver's.
In Murfreesboro. Has to be Murfreesboro.
There's the best Culver's.
Hence MTSU
Yes.
being a bigger school. Just body.
No, what is it?
It's a mile run. Then you do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, another mile run. And then you're meant to work your way to doing it.
So what
in a
is it
weight
about
vest.
yourself that you hate so much?
Happiness. I just hate it.
Okay.
It's just, I feel like when you do something once a week that you know is going to be awful,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it changes your mindset for the rest of it.
I have a buddy who this is like one of my favorite things. I just saw him. I hadn't seen him in a few years, and we were catching him. I was like, are you still doing this? Like 100%. He struggles with anxiety. He got a cold plunge. Every morning he does a cold plunge.
Yeah.
Every morning.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, I was like, all right, it's been a few years since. I was like, I want to do the catch up. He's like, yeah. I was like, you still doing them? He's like, every morning. And I was like, I was like, where are you now? He's like, it's still my mantra that if the worst thing that's probably going to happen to me every day is the first thing,
Yes.
it's actually a pretty great rest of the day.
Yes.
And I have loved that so much. I'm
Yeah.
like, what a great way to just be like, I'm going to get the worst thing out of the way.
Yes.
And then it's got to be better than sitting in, 36-degree water for 3.
Have you seen the studies on the dopamine response?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
The thing he did say, which I thought was funny, is he said it's kind of jacked he said, I will start sweat. If I don't do it first, like he hadn't done it when I got there. He's like, I'm going to do it when you leave. He's like, I'm going to sweat through our time. Like my body.
Really?
Yeah. He's like, my body gets weird with internal temperature now. It's like if I don't get that out of the way, he's like, I'm fine the rest of the day, but if I wait too long, my body will just start like cranking up heat.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
gosh, I sweat so much already.
Speaking of sweating, it's time for the speed
Here we
round.
go.
Here we
It's
go.
time for the speed round. I'm going to let you start because this is your favorite question.
I love this question. We maybe asked you this last time. I don't even care. You, if we did, you can give the same answer. I
Praise
don't care.
God.
What is your worst on stage moment? And not worst in like a bad way. Worst in an awesome way.
We were playing at King's Dominion in Virginia.
I just want to pause. It's always my favorite when it's a right into it.
Right.
I have a couple to choose from, but I've chosen this one. We're playing at King's Dominion. My wife had bought me these new H&M jumper pants.
Oh,
And I
wow.
hadn't tested them out.
What are jumper pants?
They're the pants that they don't have a zipper or button. They're just jumpers. You know, they
just pull 'em up.
elastic waistband.
Okay.
Remember Jimmy
Like
Z's?
sweatpants?
Kind of like a swim, but khakis and cuffed.
Oh, gotcha.
And
Kind of like joggers, but like
yeah, like a khaki jogger.
If you need to jog to a meeting.
If you were wearing joggers made out of khaki
if
material,
you're Mark Sibilia having a conference call, but while you're jogging.
but he'd have
But
cargo
the zoom
pockets.
might get down to your legs.
Hold on, can I just pause real quick? I'm so sorry. Did y'all see the Instagram?
This is the speed
I'm
round.
so sorry. Did y'all see the Instagram of the guy who did a Zoom call while he was in an MMA fight? And he had built behind him what looked like a living room. No, it was a green thing. So he was literally he had purposely set up a boxing match while and so he's like, and the guy's like, and he's literally trying to answer questions but he's taped a huge green box behind him that makes it look like he's in it. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's ridiculous. All right, King's Dominion. You got
King's Dominion
jumpers on.
and I jump off the stage into the crowd and high-fiving people, jump back onto the pretty tall stage, and the pants couldn't make the move. And so they ripped from waistband to waistband.
Oh, gosh.
My entire crotch section ripped
Like a cartoon.
open. And I didn't know what had happened, but I felt the breeze come
Yeah.
You're
through.
like, man, I'm so much more comfortable.
And I quickly crossed my legs and went, I don't know what I'm going to do. We were only halfway through.
Oh, no.
And then at the beginning of the next song, I kid you not, a freak storm came out of nowhere.
That's Jesus.
Torrential downpour. Concert was over. The Lord spared them all.
What if you realize you have a power that when you rip pants, it makes it
Have
rain?
you tried it again?
I have not.
Because I'm just saying.
That
it's
could be
for
one of those things where, hey, as long as you hold the staff up,
I just
Yep.
go into drought areas.
sun doesn't go
Guys,
down."
Give me a pair of joggers. I got this.
No, they have to be H&M.
Sponsored by Viore. Okay, question 2. What's the one? Okay, so as you guys have rebanded,
Reasonable.
Rebanded. I like rebanded.
yeah,
Rebanded.
Thank you. Suck it, John. What's the one band you would want to see get together for one more show? Can't say Oasis because that's already happened.
That's what I was about to say.
Are you
'cause
serious?
I saw that might be happening. is
It's
what
happening.
they
It's
said.
happening.
I can't say Oasis. I was just saying
No,
that.
you have to pick another.
The Beatles.
Because they have. Oh, that's good.
Back from the dead.
There we go.
Can I do that? Is that
Yes,
allowed?
I would
Okay.
be right there with you.
All right. What's a random dad skill that you're really, really good at that no one else, the public would not know that you're really good at?
A dad skill?
Dad skill. You can define that however you want.
And it's okay if this is a little braggy.
Okay,
Like we're
okay.
giving you, like, don't do the false humor. Like, be like, I actually kind of crushed this thing. We want that answer.
I get up and I make my girls a healthy smoothie every single morning.
So that's killer.
Every
That is
morning.
great.
What's in the smoothie?
Right now, it's changed over the years. Right now, I'm rocking a cachava powder, which is a meal replacement powder, and then we put in some raw milk. That's probably illegal. But my wife goes through some farmer, and we get raw milk. And
Say no more. Say no
then
more.
we do some
After your
coconut.
children have visions, have their 3-minute hallucinogenic.
They're all growing little horns, which is weird, but
part of it. You got to
Every
push
time
through.
their pants rip, a storm comes
Yeah.
in. It's the
it's
it's familial.
My wife just yesterday was telling the kids, "You're getting so many vitamins through this milk." We'll put in some frozen spinach, then we'll put in some avocado, and then we'll do some chia seeds. But my wife just moved me on to basil seeds, which are like chia seeds but have even more nutrients, and that creams up the
Speaking
smoothie.
of comments going crazy, people are going to get pushback
We've
on
got
that.
Yeah,
huge
wow.
chia
The
seed
chia
fans.
lobby is going to.
Well, I
What's
do
the
a mixture.
predominant taste? Like, where are you getting your taste? Like, is there a vanilla or
The
a chocolate?
powder is a chocolate powder.
Okay.
And sometimes I throw in peanut butter. But my
That's the-
10-year-old
Uh-oh.
wept furiously today because I put the peanut butter in before I poured hers, and usually
Classic.
I pour her chocolate smoothie and then add the peanut butter for the rest of them.
Yeah.
He hates
But we
So you're not great at this, but it's something you're trying to do. That's what you're saying.
That's true. I mean, for me, it's crushing.
Yeah.
If I only have one weeping, that's 75%.
We're back at the beginning. We're back at the beginning.
For a baseball slugger, I
yeah.
am
You're-
world
you're-
class.
Yeah. You're Hall of Fame. Okay, 2 more questions. If you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, who are they?
John McLaughlin, Dave Barnes,
Yep. Okay.
and myself.
Are we alive?
Preferably dead.
Okay.
And
I get
brought
that.
back.
Are we alive?
People dead or people dead or alive.
No, it's not counting you.
I mean, you kind of, as a
mean, that's
songwriter,
counting.
of course, I would love to hang out with Bono. That just seems awesome. I just read his book, and I'll just go with people I've read their books. My 3 favorite autobiographies I've read is Bono's, Matthew McConaughey's, and
The Bible.
Andre Agassi's
Oh, I heard that's great.
biography was incredible.
John would
good.
love that.
So
John would
read
love
those
that.
books and hang out with those guys. That'd be
Wait,
so
say
cool.
them one more time. Bono.
Matthew McConaughey. And
Yeah. What an interesting conversation
I
that
did
would
hear
be.
you. I heard you guys talk to him.
Yeah.
That was a fun one.
Yeah.
It was mostly just Dave fawning.
That's
over
I
it.
have zero problem with that.
But John was
John
there.
knew.
I wasn't even there. I did all my stuff.
Do you know,
post.
I think we've said this on the pod before, but like one of my favorite Dadville moments of all time is we get done with the interview. I mean, we're both buzzing, of course, because this is like early on in Dadville
Yeah.
too. It wasn't
Yeah.
like we were as good as we obviously are now at interviewing people. Tell me your name one more time.
Yeah,
Mike.
Yeah.
And Mike Sibilia. And we and so we get done with the interview, and John just looks at me. He's like, he goes, He never said my name. He said your name twice. And I was like, I know. Yeah,
That's part of what
clocking
made it so great.
I was clocking it. Because when you have that voice go, well, you know Dave? I was like,
I do remember when he said your name. I was like, dang, he said it. Dang, he said it
you
again.
just start re-entering your name on the little thing bigger and bigger.
So I'm friends with a quarterback who played at Texas and had a lot of interactions with Matthew McConaughey. And he told me
Is this CM? Is this all Colt?
Yeah,
McCoy?
Colt. So, so Colt tells me this story, and he said they're throwing around the ball, and it's something to the point of Matthew goes, "Hey, how's it going with the ladies, Colt?" And he goes, "I mean, okay, I guess." You got a girlfriend? He's like, "Well, not right now." He's like, "I got something for you." Throws him a CD. He goes, "That'll help." And Colt says he takes CD, puts it in his bag, forgets all about it, and then finally one day finds it. Goes, "What is this?" And Matthew McConaughey throws it in, and it's over an hour of a room mic of Matthew chanting and playing the bongo drums by himself.
Oh my gosh!
What a move! Wow, I mean,
that is so wonderful.
You want to talk about confidence?
Oh yeah, yeah.
My mind goes to all the logistics. How many CDs is Matthew McConaughey walking around with? Does he burn them at his house?
Yeah.
Also, did he get through and go, let's do another one? I don't like that. Give me another hour.
Hang on. Let me listen back.
Which chant?
Where am I?
Hour?
He seems like a first take kind of guy.
Yeah.
No, if you listen to it, it's a first take.
He says that in his book, In A Time to Kill, that was the first take.
Dude, that's the question I ask at the end of our podcast.
Yeah.
Because I know you listen to all of our podcasts. By the way, we have to give you the shout out for this last question because we had none other than Mr. Nick Foles on yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Who was singing when you said quarterback, I thought that's what you were going to say.
I thought you were going with.
And he was like, even bigger shout out, and he said it. He's like, Donehey's a baller.
He's got the dad hats.
Yeah.
They're great.
Dad
I should have worn it. I should have worn I had
Yeah,
one.
he gave you some love though. Okay, and finally, if you wrote a book on fatherhood, what would it be called?
I think it would be probably something around the idea of like the secret of, or just delight in them. I think that would be the thing.
Yeah.
That's really just the three words that I've kind of the banner I'm trying to put up over my house, and it's equally the easiest and the hardest thing to do.
Yeah,
because the only thing it demands is your time, which is always the hardest thing to give them.
God, that's good. I love that. I still think I've quoted you numerous times on during Dadville episodes because I remember that. Ironically, when I was looking at my notes today before the interview, and I was like, we made for a minute. It was like things that we've learned. And we were like, let's try to keep up with things we've learned on the pod, just to have it. If that'd
be a fun episode.
Well,
just
it's
things we've learned.
I think that's maybe why we started doing it. But yours was in the quotes because I just had you talking about that and saying same thing when you met parents and kids that got along really well as adults, and that the thing was always pay attention.
Yeah.
Just like pay attention, be interested.
Yeah.
And I really do think about that a lot. Like probably weekly, I'll have a moment where I'm like, Dave, pay attention, because I'm like,
and the delight in them is like I guess it's the next step, right?
Yeah.
It's not only pay attention, but actually express your pleasure with them, right? Because that's God to Jesus. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. So there's this Jesus goes out from his Father's validation,
right. Knowing that,
not for it.
That's exactly right. Come on with that.
Okay,
that's good, dude.
Mike, thanks for coming
really
back
good
on the pod.
My guys,
we love having you.
What a delight.
Can't wait to see you in 3 more years.
I delight in you.
Don't.